All right.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. I am Ellen Meyers, the Programs and Communications Director for the Newton Free Library. I'm delighted to be welcoming you to the first in this year's poetry series with readings by Dorain West, Julia Kanno, and Matthew E. Henry, also sometimes known as MEH. We're grateful to them for sharing their work and also to the series facilitator, Doug Holder. Mark your calendars for the next poetry series session, which will be held on Tuesday, April 12th, in honor of National Poetry Month. I hope you'll take advantage of everything that the Newton Free Library has to offer, either via our website for virtual resources or by dropping by the library for an in-person visit. We do have a wealth of programs and services for people of all ages. Regarding the open mic, if you'd like to read, please send a chat to me directly. We'll bring up as many folks as possible, time permitting, and the limit is one brief poem per person for the open mic. When it comes time for the open mic, I'll chat directly to you to let you know when it's your turn. So please look out for a direct message from me if you have signed up to participate. Also, please keep yourself muted during this session unless it's your turn to read during the open mic. We have enabled closed captioning. You can turn it off or back on by clicking the CC Live transcript link at the bottom of your screen. And please know that this session is being recorded. In a while, I'll drop a couple things into the chat, such as a link to sign up for library email newsletters and information about a program that's happening next week at the library. And without further ado, I'll turn the session over to Doug.
Well, I want to welcome you here to the Newton Free Library Poetry Series for Black History Month. I'm glad to have these poets available. All these poets, I, either interviewed them or are friends of mine. So I'm familiar with their work, and I think their work is, excellent. Dorain West will be our lead poet, and he's a spoken word artist with a love, this is quoting him, for a love of coloring based in Brighton, Mass. In 8th grade, he stumbled upon poetry to express his feelings for a crush. He's been uncovering pieces of his soul through written verse ever since. Winner of the 2021 poem for Roxbury contest. His favorite forms of poetry are haiku. West has published 4 times, in 2001 from 826 Boston, 2021 from 826 Boston, Right on Dot, Mother's Mercy, and Boston Hassle. Check out his weekly sports recap on Boston Hassle's website. Thank you, Durane.
Thank you so much, Doug, for that introduction. I hope everybody's doing well. Yeah, I am very grateful to have the opportunity to express some of the things that I write down in my journal or in my composition notebook with you all today. I have a few poems. I'll jump right into them. And this first poem is a blackout piece. I did a blackout piece off the lyrics for the Star Spangled Banner. So that will be my first piece. It's untitled. I kind of have it as SSB, but here it goes. Can you see the dawn's early light, proudly hailed at twilight's last perilous fight? Ramparts watched through star-spangled banner, dimly seen through mists of the deep, where we dread silent reposes in which the breeze, overing towering steep, fitfully blows, half concealing, half disclosing the gleam of morning's first beam, reflected in the havoc of war. in the battle's confusion, a home and a country, blood washed of refuge slave to terrors of flight, the bloom of the brave. Thus be it ever between desolation and peace. May heaven rescued land conquer when our cause is just. Thank you. All right. So just moving right along, I do have a time limit, but I did want to pay homage to Black poets that I'm inspired by. I did want to take some of my time to honor poets and poems from poets that inspire me to write. So I'm going to be reading a little bit from the Oxford Anthology of African American Poetry. And this first piece is called Poem for the Blues Singers by Sterling Plump. Poems are not places. There are no maps for centuries where the geography of skin is anonymous in memory. I am secondhand dream in concrete slabs of silence. Somewhere bones speak for my name over fibers of their secrets. My poems are wanderers, meandering in crevices between distances and tombs, where my voice is bound with hammering against the anvil of truth. Poems are bridges. Neon reaches across worlds where language seeks a voice for itself, where words are steps up towers of perception. I exist in language I invent out of ruins. Out of the nameless sand wind scatters as my soul. I exist in lines of spirits who gather in longings blues singers pedal for sweat. I exist landless, cropping my dreams in soil from distances in silence, only travelers of the middle passage own. Thank you. Our next piece is a piece that I hold very dear to myself. It is titled 617. And here it is. Black boy, born on Magnolia, stroller of hollow streets, protector of concrete gates, placed over red lines, the red line travels underneath. Landmarks checkpoint history here. Sometimes feeling like decoding labyrinth walls for the nation's context, like Malcolm Little at Silver Slipper, or Martin meeting Curator curbside on Huntington. This city has many tales cobbled together between Fort Hill and Faneuil, Rosendale and Roxbury, like Prince Hall lobbying for education rights of African-American children, or A. Phillip creating brotherhood of sleeping car porters. Boston hoards its history like fine china, like White Stadium with abandoned bear cages nearby, Strand Theater, an Apollo centerpiece from 1918. But when the lights come on and brochures are handed out, these stories aren't illuminated, aren't elevated from ash, yet slip through untrained fingers like water. How much history is his story? No Monopoly, the Roxbury edition on Walgreens, at Walgreens on Warren. Yet we a city of dreamers, minds perched atop unstretched bodies on Morton and Seaver, where vintage public transit transitions positions before skies can turn pink lemonade. A navigation to new dawns that spawn choices all voices don't hear. Thank you. I'm jumping back and forth, y'all. So, give me a second as I read another poem from this book of the African American poetry. It's one of my favorite poems of all time. It is Three-Legged Chairs by Lamont B. Steptoe. Make the poem like the hood. Couches and three-legged chairs at the curb, scrawled graffiti on abandoned buildings, fetid damp smell emanating from dark cellars, two-story homes run down like bad teeth. Make the poem like the hood. Litter the language with busted wine bottles. Scatter old mattresses, people with scrawny cats. Color the streetlights blue. Have all the trees stagger like human drunks. Let the wind forever sound like gunshots and sirens. Somewhere in all of this, children pray and bleed. Some escape on the wings of mother's prayers. Some escape with bullets in the back. Some escape into the church or mental ward. Some escape into bottles or white powder. Some escape at the wheel of the words. Some run, jump, dance into beauty and fame. Golden name must go to graves, embittered, enraged, unknown, and screaming. I have one last poem to share with y'all. It's another one of my poems. It is a self-care piece I wrote a long time ago to help myself through a manic state. And I'd like to share it with you. It's kind of like a recipe poem. So just give me a second as I pull it up. And I think this will be my last piece. Doug, how am I doing on time, sir?
You're doing fine. You've got another few more minutes.
All right, sounds good, sounds good. In a clean bowl, mix together a half cup Dove liquid body soap, a tablespoon honey, 1 tablespoon vanilla extract, and 1 egg white. Stir until the white of egg floats. Bust the shell over a bowl and pass the yolk back and forth between 2 halves of the same carapace as ivory dribbles into the saucer with essential scents like lavender and chamomile that help unwind the tension your job creates from extracting your story without reimbursement. Those Epsom salts that assist in draining the muscles, releasing the urge to deny this reward, to justify why your nonprofit doesn't have enough in the budget to pay you your worth. Excusing the fact that no response is still a response, a proclamation, while creating this ultimate bliss from dimming light in overhead candles. Feel free if your background allows for you to sink into a meditative state. Alexa, play Good and Plenty by Alex Isley, please. Relax the levee holding the ocean. Maintain that flow by adjusting the coordinates, warm but not too balmy. Some bothered to check if it too is stinging. Yearning to heal, sticking a device with pyrometric sensors inside until the mercury places itself adjacent to a numerical value for it to protect your skin, that holds your body close as you soak. And if you want to stay, you can. Thank you so much. Doug, how much time do I got? Do I got more time or?
Oh yeah, you got 2 minutes. You got
2
another
minutes?
poem? Yeah.
All right, let me see if I got something small. You want me to do haikus? I could do haikus. I've been working on Sin. Oh, can y'all hear me still?
I see you. Yep.
All right, cool. Just on low battery here, but we'll make it through.
No problem.
I've been working on Sin Quains recently, and let's see if I have one. All right, never mind. Just for time's sake. All right. This piece is called Merriam-Webster and I Disagree. The definition that I use in this piece is window. So window, noun, an opening or wall, roof of a building, a vehicle or frame to admit light or air. My definition is this. An opening stretched by sacrifice stands tall on off-white walls. like childhood photos, recounting lessons, inner city mischief accounted for. Its immolation allows structure to gather perspective, conjure new viewpoints to see outside itself. At night, roofs survey the depths of the Aldebaran, gawk at how stars can follow clusters only to become larger than the sun, holding space for Black adolescent dreams, becoming magic school bus, framed, admitting light or air. Thank you
you very much. Thank you. The next poet is I met because she was taking care of my wife who died recently from cancer, and she told me she was a poet, and she sent me some stuff, and I just thought it blew me away. So I'll read her her bio. Julia writes, I am the mother of two amazing young men, ages 27 and 17. I am from Appalachia and Botswana. I'm an artist and also working in healthcare. I've self-published with my co-pilot, Levin Proofer, 2 books of prose, A Storm is Coming and The Hardest Helmet. My first reading was done at Northeastern University, and since then I've read at the Somerville Armory 2 times. I consider myself an introverted artist writer. I gave birth to my works, including those have been displayed at the Curator Museum, as well as Howard University, and local gems such as the Middle East and the Out of Blue Gallery. She was published in Tell magazine, a feature of her work and art. And she's studying behavioral science, and I think she's now in graduate school Leslie. So welcome, Julia. Julia,
you are muted.
I don't even see her.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry about that. I'm old school. I'm not with all this technology. But thank you for that beautiful introduction. And it's an honor to be here. So I have 2 pieces that I'm going to read. One is quite long, but it's basically about my work being a certified nursing assistant at Spalding Hospital during this whole pandemic. And it's called The Empty COVID Octopus. So I'll begin. Tubes dance from ventilators like infected dancing octopus tails. They, the infected warriors, stare out the window with help from I. To look below from window and see the soaked and drenched and devastated and confused faces of loved ones below. Independence is robbed. They're wheeled to the toilet by I and robbed of privacy by I, using instructed body mechanics to rotate and give comfort and not to degrade a human. And I'm so sorry. And I humbly wipe the yellow, brown, or even red, black mud excrement from the crease of your butt. Emptying your Foley catheter is an honor. The smell bothers me no more because I am thrilled that your body and your kidneys are connecting. Freedom from the vent during the day is like finding inner truth, Santa Claus, or even the North Star, or getting a great deal on iwantalive.com. Yet, careful, you are still not, or nor you will ever be yourself. You are in a place that I would sell my soul to not be in. This place is where you are still isolated in a room with a glass window and a speaker video system, and then hooked to the machine at night that keeps you alive while the trachea and the breathing tubes rob your speech and your sleep. And all you have are memories of the before, cooking dinner for the kids, teaching a classroom of students with wide eyes, building houses, being behind a mahogany bar as a bartender, hearing sweet and ugly and drunken truths, You forget the feel of real clothes, fresh cotton, wool, silk, and even fucking polyester. The air smacking your open ass in your new uniform, your Johnny, so weary and weak. You don't bother to cover yourself anymore. Because of this, you must eat baby food again, have to learn to chew again, swallow without dying. While you crave the beef stew that your beloved made with a side of rye bread, we people like I become your new family because you cannot see that grandchild with the red curls and pink lips and upturned nose, or that beautiful ebony little girl that your daughter tried so hard to have, and she looks just like you and your wife, that died 79 days ago from this beast. Without you, they would not exist, without your sperm, legacy, and you. The halls, as you learn to walk again, no longer smell like death or shit or putrid urine, because you have been there so long. These halls now smell like home. After 7 months, and after 7 months, and after being put into a medically induced coma and turned upside down in a diaper and rotated like a rotisserie human the whole time, this human you have reverted almost back to infancy. In rehab, you have come so far. You sit up on your own, but weak, and learn about how life went on. Your son got discharged from the military. Your youngest daughter got eloped to that guy you never liked. Your first granddaughter died from leukemia. Your wife had a biopsy and started preparing divorce papers because the idea of being a caregiver was all too much. The house you built went up for sale because of the medical bills. And your eldest son killed himself in his garage with a tube in his mouth, looking at pictures of you because he thought you wouldn't live, and he loved you that much. Later, after rehab, because of I and the doctors and the staff and the team, and because you fought to make it for them, and you know nothing because you were not to be upset. And keep in mind, we never knew the progression of these deviations because we were focused on you. You were wheeled out on a Wednesday at 3:45 p.m. Staff like I, with balloons and music, clapping. We dressed you as you wish, dress shoes and real underwear, no diapers, and a nice dress shirt, teal green, and even a tie, red with flowers, and pleated pants and brown shoes. You tied your own laces, and you wanted me to untie them again to show your family that you could do it and how you could do it. As we open the sliding doors, the blast of organic earth and fresh air hit your face. We have 10 balloons and you look amazing and so happy. And we wait, and there is not one person but a housekeeping person that says, "You made it, man." You clench your jaw, and I clench my rage and send you into the abyss. So that's the first piece. And the second piece I'm going to read is actually, I wrote in tribute to Diane, Doug's wife that passed. And it's called She Has Cancer. Good morning, my alabaster queen. Your smile gives me ignition for life. I wash you gentle like a newborn, checking every fold and crevice, and I brush your perfect teeth and gums and tongue. You make me laugh from the gut. Even with slurred speech from this fucker called cancer, I wish I had an answer for this catatonic disaster. When you speak, your hands dance in the air, and I'm thrilled that you actually grew back your hair, and you speak of how you hate winter and how you adore your man. Sometimes we sit in silence with only the sound of a dusty fan. I wonder who you were before the beast got inside. When I said that I was not sad, I was fake and I lied. Cleaning your waste is an honor. I wish you could see the rain. You have aged me. I want to absorb your pain. You have taught me, and I am willing to learn that after your loss, forever I will yearn. So that's it.
That's it. Okay, wonderful.
Yep.
Thank you. Well, I'm glad you agree.
Thank you.
I like to thank I just a note to my students. I had quite a few students here who showed up from Endicott College, and I did write you down, so you will get extra credit. But I know you would have come without any enticement like that, right? Anyway, and our final reader tonight is Matthew E. Henry, and he's the author. I've had the pleasure of interviewing him, and actually we reviewed a book of his. I forget the name. Teaching While Black, Teaching While Black. And he also wrote Dust and Ashes, his full-length collection. The colored page is forthcoming from Sundress Publications. He's the editor-in-chief of the Wake Journal, and his poetry and prose have appeared in some magazines like Barron Magazine, Frontier Poetry, the Florida Review, Massachusetts Review, New York Quarterly, Ninth Letter, Plowshares, Poetry East. And he received an MFA and an MA in theology and a PhD in education. His website is www.mehpoeting.com. And he writes about education, race, religion, and burning oppressive systems to the ground.
Thank you all for inviting me. Going last is hard because I'm still like processing the amazing poetry that went before me. I will try to live into that tradition. I have a bunch of different poems I want to read, so I'm just going to jump right in. I will say that I'm Black. Hello. I've been Black all my life, and I've also been in education my entire life, both as a student and then as a teacher. And so the poems that I'm going to read right now are that intersection between being a teacher of color, but also being a student of color. A lot of them are going to come from my chapbook, Teaching While Black, and the upcoming book, the full length, The Colored Page. So I'm going to jump right in. My third grade teacher. Explained skin, the undercurrents of blood, and how my face lacked the ability to bruise or blush. I tried to show her a patch that was darker than the rest. She nodded, explained it was harder to see on my skin. I'm not gonna say a lot about the individual poems, but that was a poem that actually happened in third grade, but I didn't think about it until much later when I was teaching at the college level, when I was giving examples of how sometimes curriculum can just be white, that teachers aren't thinking about the other students who are in the classroom who have different ethnicities and backgrounds than them. And I just got stuck thinking about the fact that I don't think my teacher was racist, but she had never thought about the fact of the years that she had been teaching about circulation. She also believed that Black people couldn't bruise. How many other students had she taught that to over the years and years and years and years? And they might to this day still believe that, in the same way that some of you might believe if you swallow a piece of gum, it sits in your stomach for 7 years. Like, things that aren't true, but we're told at a young age that just stay with us. The next few poems I'm going to read, I haven't read out loud almost ever. I don't usually read them at readings because a lot of the readings I've done have been either via Zoom and they've been outside of Massachusetts, outside of Boston. And these are sort of Boston-based poems. So if you, this group, I assume, will know some of the references I'm going to make, hopefully. Mistaken Identity. 2 decades later, when NPR mentioned the Stewart heist, I saw how my father, after bailing brothers out of Charles Street, seeing nephews shackled in paddy wagons outside of Chevu, was found equally Black enough to be stopped and frisked as BPD lynch mobbed through Mission Hill and Mattapan, Roxbury and Dorchester. They meant the landscapes and portraits The artistic soiree, the concert, the storm on the Sea of Galilee, I underappreciated on a field trip the summer before 4th grade. Not Stewart, the white-on-white crime, blamed on the nearest Black faces. I remembered how it would take 3 months for them to admit what the lead detectives always knew. It was an inside job. Early intervention. I should give some context. I'm working my Metco Matters t-shirt. I was a Metco student in Wellesley, which explains so much of my personality. And this is something that some of you might remember from back in the 90s. Early intervention. On September 21st, 1990, Boston Celtics star rookie D. Brown exited a post office in Wellesley, Massachusetts, where he was carjacked and brutally assaulted by 5 police officers. Making love to the pavement, Glock 19s pointed at the back of his head, they welcomed him to his new home, an economic sundown community, a haven of white flight wealth, in which he should have known better. His almost wife, through hands as pale as theirs, begged until they recognized his name, that the amount he allegedly stole was thousands less than what he made the hour their jackboots remained pressed into his neck. A year after the Stewart hoax ended in the harbor, the dispatcher was told a Black man was standing out across the street from the bank that was robbed days before. They weren't positive, but how many could there be here today, holding the mail, sitting in his car? Waiting for the slide, I learned about all this at recess. Johnny's mom signed the communal letter apologizing for the damage done to the town's reputation. The handful of Black residents appeared before the selectmen's board, asked when their letters would arrive. Sarah's father thought everyone was blowing things out of proportion. Better safe than sorry. Besides, no one was hurt. I used to be a college professor, and I teach high school currently, but one of the things that I also do on the side is do professional developments for local schools and virtually for colleges. And I found myself using this one poem as an example of the dangers of color blindness in curriculum. It's called Self-Evident. As a kid from Boston, the Revolutionary War was my favorite subject in 4th grade. A tea party I could respect, class trips vainly searching for musket balls in Lexington treetops, reading of decapitations by cannonballs on Breed's Hill. Even the sites in Southie, unsafe for me to visit, were a source of tribal pride, like rooting for the Patriots. We were told to don our colonial imagination caps and tell our story of emancipation from the British. Where would we be? The Old South Meeting House, the Old North Church? What would we see as we rose to American greatness? Our teachers should hear freedom ringing in the streets through our words. I dropped my head to begin, oversized pencil in hand, until I remembered. Seeing my inaction, she crouched and began to re-explain. I patiently waited for her to finish, eyes on her lips, then asked if she wanted me to pretend to be white, or to picture myself for sale on the steps of Faneuil Hall, or stacked in one half of the harbor ships heading to and from the West Indies, explaining my parents' patois. After the vocal static, the hems and haws of white noise, she suggested Crispus Attucks, the hometown boy, the Black hero of the Boston Massacre. My siblings had taught me the one-drop rule and when to nod my head politely. So I pretended that he was not half Wampanoag, that Framingham was not his master's home, and imagined myself the first unarmed Black man shot on these urban streets. This poem's entitled An Open Letter to My Classmate on a Conversation We Never Had. For context, I did my PhD at Lesley, and this is something that happened on my way to my first day. An open letter to my classmate on a conversation we never had. You sat across from me on the Red Line, somewhere between Park Street and MGH. As the morning crush of suits and scrubs dispersed, I noticed our book in your hands. The gray cover held together by rainbows of used stickers, the pages jaundiced by highlights, the time-wrinkled spine all matched the one in my bag. I smiled, but only to myself. I knew we were on the same track, heading towards our first day of icebreakers and imposter syndrome, how our cohort would spend semesters sharing study notes and nightmares, discussing quantitative approaches to statistics and religion, complaining about qualifying papers while celebrating pregnancies. We would support each other through dissertations and divorces, diplomas and deaths. But I kept all of this to myself. I knew better. Just as I knew how long I should wait before exiting the train at our stop and to use a different door. Knew how to eschew getting my steps in to make you more comfortable, enduring the glacial ascent of Porter's escalator. Knew to ignore how you clutched your purse and sped up when, entering the same building, my presence behind you was unavoidable. Knew how to bite my tongue when you teared up explaining the implicit bias and microaggressions discussed in our gray book. And as an aside, that was priceless because the homework for that night from the gray book just happened to be reading about microaggressions and implicit bias. And then sitting there as this woman was like, oh my God, I can't. I hate it when people do these things to people. And I'm just like, do I say anything? No, I'm just going to write a poem. And I think she's heard the poem since then, but we have still not had that conversation. But she knows it's her. Switching to the classroom. This is a poem that I often read and was actually shared around my school, which was very weird to have as an experience. It's entitled, When Asked Why All Lives Don't Matter. After a deep breath, I attempted to explain. My aunt had breast cancer. Despite a healthy dose of science and scripture, prayer and prescriptions, the shadow never dimmed. We celebrated her life, mourned the hole her grave dug in ours. We lauded her loving kindness, questioned the natural shocks flesh is heir to, why this disease would claim a wife, a coworker, a friend, an aunt. At the repast, heads turned to the future, saving other sons and daughters, ourselves. A collection was taken to fund breast cancer research, a medical scholarship for oncology study discussed, a proposal for new. From the back of the church hall, a woman no one recognized screamed, "What about ovarian cancer and prostate cancer? Why aren't you talking about those? All cancer matters." Most of my students nodded into the ensuing silence, but some blank stares and my job description doomed me to be more didactic, to explain appropriate time, place, and manner, intent versus impact, the guilt and shame required to derail communal grief and hijack a narrative to make oneself more comfortable. I explained the human duty to choose. Enter the room willing to bear bodies on our shoulders, or arms empty, leave, and silently stand outside. I said, replace cancer with lives, and waited. I'm gonna read two last poems real quick. For context, I realize I should write this down. I'm gonna use the word blurred, and blurred is a Black nerd. I am a blurred in so many ways. It also takes its epigram from Common's rap, where he says, "You put a nigga in Star Wars, maybe you need two. And then maybe then we'll believe you see Black people in the future." From his song, Black America Again, which Stevie Wonder is on, and that just does good things to my soul. It's called Revisionist History. Common's clever rhyme spread online discussion about Hollywood tokenism and progressive Black post-racialism among the hip-hop intelligentsia. While some argued the count across the entire franchise, the number of named brothers, no sisters, who wielded lightsabers and X8 night snipers on the screen, blurred that I am, my first thought was about the anachronism, that the whole space opera took place past tense a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, calling into question the whole conceit. But then I considered the curriculum we teach. The slim books stacked like hulled bodies in the back of my classroom. Uncle Tom's Cabin, Huckleberry Finn, Things Fall Apart, A Raisin in the Sun, The Bluest Eye, Citizen. I thought maybe they need to see us, we need to see us on different ships, in different positions, captains and pilots instead of cargo. In the middle of Black History Month, one of the things that I've been saying to my colleagues and anyone who hosts as a teacher, I mean, thanks for giving us the shortest month and like, bringing out Black stuff. But if it can be other than stories of tragedy and overcoming like pain and suffering, that'd be cool. We do other things as well, just throwing it out there. And to that end, I'll end with this poem. An open letter to my well-intentioned white educators, past, present, and future. Thank you for always seeing me as one of the good ones, a safe bet for your efforts, a burden worth lifting. Your attempts to connect and encourage, like the educators whose movies were mocked in the faculty lounge, didn't go unnoticed. But I never wanted to be the first Black president or the second. I wasn't interested in attending Harvard or those special summer programs sure to broaden my horizons. There's a reason I grew tired of Christmas Addicts, George Washington Carver, and the Reverend Dr. King being your only assignment suggestions. Why I read Othello while the rest suffered through Salinger's unreliable narration. Why later I asked if you knew Sojourner Truth, Lucille Clifton, Octavia Butler, the other dead having as much to offer. It's why my recital piece was Sir Duke instead of Chopin. I know how I looked at times, the baggy pants, the bandana, the toothpick, the code switching which made you more uncomfortable than my racially charged questions. But I can be loud without being angry, just like everybody else. Can fail without being a reflection on all who share my shade, at least in theory. Don't worry, at the time of this writing, I am not dead or in prison. 5 diplomas and decades of my own students say I turned out all right. Feel free to take your share of the credit, but understand your dreams weren't in color and I didn't need saving. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that great reading. And I'll leave it to Ellen Meyers. Now we're going to have an open mic. She'll explain the guidelines.
I just want to thank Dorain, Julia, and Matthew. These readings were very, very powerful. I know if we could see everybody on screen and hear everybody, I mean, I see people clapping and so on, and I just want to take a minute and just take a space for a second to pause and just like take that in. Keith Thornheim, you are first up on the open mic.
Oh, thank you. Well, Dr. Henry, you commented it was hard being last, but boy, that was something. And imagine the poor person who now has to come after you. Okay. Persistence of inequality. It is said, don't judge a man until you have walked in his shoes. But when I found the fellow, he was barefoot. Perhaps I should have given him mine and tried to walk beside him in my other pair.
Thank you, Keith. Thank you so much. And Karen Klein, you are up next.
This was an amazing reading. Ellen, how much time do I have?
One poem.
Thank you.
One
Dorain.
poem. I have
One
one
short
very
poem.
long poem, so I'm going to cut from it because I've been listening to Durane and Julia and Matthew, and those are very serious poems. So my most recent poem is a little more ironic and humorous, but I don't think it's appropriate for tonight. And I empathize with you, Keith, about following this reading. It's a challenge. This was magnificent and such raw honesty. It's really amazing, and I congratulate all of the readers. It was a privilege to listen. So I've been really upset about Israel and Palestine for a long time, and I have finally tried to write a poem a bit about that. So this is a way too long poem, so I'm just going to pick some sections from it rather than reading a very long poem. So 1, always occupied. The name of it, by the way, is Canaan, and it goes way back. Always occupied, often colonized, territory of the southern Levant, a stretch of beach, littoral lapped by the translucent sea, awash in green blue, no color, but light streaming down from Homer's wine dark, opening to a surface luminosity, tempting, dangerous. What human walks these shores, live there, when sand and sea obliterate their footprints? History, only memory, forgotten, reinvented, politicized. Second part. History's petri dishes, translucent layers, stacked endlessly, top on top on top, on time's interlocking, tangled puzzles flow backwards. Copper wheels, clay tablets, notched inscriptions, bronze, iron. Scattered shard burials, figures all nippled breasts, buttocks, palm ready. What tribal mix of sperms, eggs, the jumble of kingdoms, kaleidoscopic twirls of place, swirls of men, hormonal fuck and fight. Kingdoms, Amnon, Moab, Edom, Midian. The sea invaders are not Philistia. They're coastal cities, tribal polytheism, Jordan to the sea, Yah, god of rivers, sea, Baal, storm god, Asherah of the wooden pole, sometime consort of El, of Baal, of Yahweh. Kingdoms, Judah, Israel. Of the cities of these peoples that the Lord thy God giveth thee for an inheritance, thou shalt save alive nothing that breatheth. Thou shalt utterly destroy them. Hittite, Amorite, Canaanite, Perizzite, Hivite, Jebusite, Canaanites, Semites, sperm amalgamation, brothers. The oldest true story, fratricide. The first wandering Jew, Cain. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. And next I'd like to call up Dante Mitchell.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dante Mitchell. I'm an independent artist, writer, actor, performance artist from Los Angeles. And the piece I will share with you is a visual I just released called Climax. Before I start, I want to thank all the poets and the host for just curating this great space and powerful, moving. I've appreciated it. Smile like you used to embrace your inner child. Hey, and be youthful. I said you should smile. like you used to embrace your inner child. Yeah, and be youthful. Power for the powerless. They treat us like a palace. We made it bloom, we the botanists. Rewrite the story, young novelist. Cipher, prophet and prophetess. Build with your sister and brother. Stand tall, be stilts for each other. Energy meant to be healing each other, not killing each other. Earth is our mother, her seeds are connected to ensure that she is protected. Move with intention. Be sure that nothing's regretted. I said it, I meant it. I meant it, I said it. I said it, I meant it. I meant it, I said it. Hey, smile. Hey, like you used to embrace your inner child. Hey, yeah, and be youthful. I said you should smile. Yeah, like you used to embrace your inner child. Yeah, and be youthful. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Dante. Thank you so much. Unusual that we don't have anyone else signed up for the open mic. And so I'd like to thank everyone and remind you that we will celebrate National Poetry Month on April 12th, Tuesday at 7 o'clock. And Doug, who will be reading as featured poets then?
Denise Provost. My memory fails me. Denise Provost, Harris Gardner, I believe Gloria Mindock, I think. Yeah, I think that's who's going to be reading.
Well, I hope you'll all join us. And again, heartfelt thanks to everyone who read. This was one of the most amazing poetry evenings that I've attended recently. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hang in there, everyone.
Thank you so much. It was such an honor to be with all of you. So thank you. Sorry.
Thank you,
my
Julia.
Dog. Sorry. That's why I had to go on mute because my crazy puppy. Thank you very much. Blessing.
Are welcome on Zoom.
All right.
Your
Bye.
dog sounds cute.
He's not that cute, but thank you very much.
I love dogs, so I'm a big fan of dogs.
Okay, then you can dog sit, and then you can tell your story, all right? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, bye-bye.
Blessings.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Have a good night, everyone.